Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Pretty remarkable guy.
Very dynamic.
But a couple decades later, everything shifted.
The election was rigged and stolen from Donald Trump. Here, for example, is a man named Patrick Byrne.
Today, resigning.
Was supporting elaborate conspiracy theories.
A bizarre series of events involving a Russian spy, the FBI, and what he describes as a destructive deep state within that institution.
Patrick Byrne is to meet with the January 6th investigators.
It's hard to get into the mind of somebody like Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
Patrick Byrne.
As great as he rose to in this society, something's off with him now.
Some have said I'm a prophet. Others, they label me a heretic. But perhaps I'm just somebody who's willing to say the emperor has no clothes when no one else will.
You in our audience know who Patrick Byrne is, or at the very least, you know the name. But do you really know his story? Even if you know some of it, I can guarantee you certainly don't know the whole story. But you will if you watch the riveting new docuseries called The Enemy Within, which is now streaming on Rumble as well as the website enemywithin.com. And join us now for a deeper dive into just who is Patrick Byrne. Well, it's Patrick Byrne himself. Welcome back, Patrick. It's good to see you.
Ms. Robinson, always great to be on. It's an honor. Merry Christmas.
Patrick, okay, so to let my audience know, this is a 3-part docuseries, and every episode in the 3-part series is, I use the word riveting, it is. This is extremely well done, just beautiful production value. I'm a nerd like that. I'm a cinematography geek, so I just have to, I know the production value was lovely. But your life story truly does read like the plot and script to these action adventure series that we pay so much to go see in the movie theater.
Well, as they say in theater of some scripts, it reads better than it played. It looks a lot of fun in the movie. It wasn't so fun to actually live through, but there we are.
I agree. I thought about some of these situations, and it appears you were in some very hairy situations, quite daunting to me. In fact, episode 1 essentially opens with this text message exchange you read. We actually have some B-roll of that text exchange in which they, basically tell you they need you back to do a job or something, or, go to Iran, and you're hiding out somewhere essentially, and they say, we know where you are at all times. We can still kill you. I mean, if most people received that message from whoever that was, that would be pretty scary. But you will not tell us about this exchange and the work you were doing. We know generally, right, because we've talked about you being working with the FBI in the past in several different scenarios. But tell us what about these exchanges in this particular docuseries that we don't know.
Well, that's actually most of the dialogue in here is word for word, or not most, essentially all of it. In that case, after I left Overstock, I went out. I bounced through, I think, Thailand and Malaysia to Indonesia, and I would leave my electronic. I took a ferry and another ferry and a bus and I left my electronics along the way, and then I went out and lived in this hut in the middle of nowhere and was just surfing. And I would go back once a week to this bar and pick up my electronics, and they kept telling me to come back. You need to come back, and I wouldn't come back. And I finally got a message. This was actually spoken to me, where the fellow said, "Look, they want you to know that they can kill you wherever. They don't care that you're in Padang, some really remote place." But he named the name. He said, "They don't care that you're in such and such a place. That they want you to know they can kill you wherever you are. So you got to come back." And so
how is it that you are still walking around with us this day, Patrick? After watching that, I'm surprised you're still alive.
Well, I bet there are people who regret that they didn't kill me along the way, but at each point,
I bet
I tried to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead, so at no point was it a good time to do it. At no point was it a good time to do it. And I can tell you something General Flynn told me in January or maybe it was March of 2021 when the fake election was over. And I was on my way out of the country, and General Flynn said, Patrick, it's easier for them to kill you if you do that. If you go off to Nicaragua or you go off to some, the outback somewhere, it's very easy. You know how it works. They're just going to have someone from the embassy go by some local gangsters and say, look, we'll give you, sit in a bar with them. Here's an envelope with $20,000. There's an American living down the road. You go kill him. We'll give you another $20,000, and you can bring one suitcase into the United States that we won't check. That's how it works. And I said, well, General, so I said, you should stay in the United States. You'll be safer. I said, can't they kill me if I stay in the United States? He said, well, they can, but there's a lot more paperwork involved.
I've heard that before, but I have never heard that line. I have never heard that specific reason as to why it's safer for political dissidents, I think would be the more accurate term, right? Here to stay in the United States as opposed to going to abroad where they think they might be safer. But I guess you're right. There probably would be more paperwork involved. You mentioned General Michael Flynn's name. It was his idea to do this docuseries, correct? And his concept as well, this idea that there's a young gentleman who I say did a fantastic job of acting. All of the people who acted in the film were really good as well. It didn't feel like you were watching a docuseries, right? It felt much more of a fictional narrative because they really told a story and they told it well. But it was General Flynn's idea to have this flashback sequence with you while you also served as sort of a narrator as an interview subject in it. And it works really well. The layout of the three films really do help tell the story but keep you intrigued.
Thank you. Well, it was General Flynn's idea. The structure, he said, first it was his idea to do the movie. And I'll tell you when it came, the day after the Byrne report was delivered, the day after the January 6th hearing opened up and Liz Cheney opens up with his speech about, and on the night of December 18th, the Oval Office was penetrated by General Michael Flynn, Sidney Powell, and somebody else. And he came in the next day. I saw him. He was doubled over laughing. He said, why is it they're afraid to mention your name? I said, sir, I'm kryptonite to the deep state. I had told him the story briefly once, but I said, let's sit down and let me walk you through it for an hour. I walked him through it for an hour, and he thought, and a few months later, the Byrne report was delivered, and he called me up the next morning at 7:01, which is what he does whenever he's really upset. His wife, Lori, is saying, you can't call anyone. So he calls him at 7:01. He says, Patrick, we're going to make your story public. Our republic's hanging by a thread. It may be lost already. We're going to make your story public. And then it was his idea. It was about 9 months later when he sort of got around to working it. And he said, he watched that movie with McNamara, Fog of War. And let's do something like that, Patrick, where it's Fog of War, but you're going to, as you narrate things, we're going to have reconstructions. Then he worked with a wonderful director, Matt Thayer, and who took that concept and turned it into this. I had nothing to do with the movie other than I showed up for a week of filming in Oklahoma to film my interviews. This was all General Flynn and Matt and Joy Thayer. So all credit to them.
You said that you're like kryptonite to the deep state, and it is because you know so much about them. And you revealed more in this docuseries than you have before about what exactly you did have on them, and that related to one Maria Butina. Some of our audience might remember her name. She was this alleged Russian spy. Her face, her name was sprayed all over headlines during the Trump administration when she had been arrested. You had been in a relationship with Miss Butina. There are the two of you there, a lovely young woman. And this got quite interesting. While you were working as, I guess you would call it a quote unquote informant for the FBI, you decided to devise a plan to set them up. And this is how it is portrayed in the film. Let's watch.
Pretty heavy. Warning. Pretty heavy.
Yes. It's related.
Step 3, lay the trap. So after she left, I had my first meeting in a car with the agents and filled them in sort of very briefly on the weekend. And at the end, as I was about to get out, they said,
One thing. Have you been physical again?
Oh, yeah. I'm back in the saddle, babe. Shagged her all night long.
When we met a week later for the more detailed debriefing, I dropped clues that I had mapped out carefully the night before so they came out not in any chronological order, but in fragments. And there was mention of a gun range and a long drive, and then night I had made linguine with poached lobster, the time we'd gone to a movie, and the walk we'd had, and so on and so forth. But I designed it so that when the agents fit the clues together, the following picture would emerge. I had gotten her inebriated, gotten her home, introduced her to drugs, gotten her knocked out, questioned her, and then shagged her. And the word for that is rape. Why did I make such a thing up? Because I wanted to see what Comey and Brennan would do. And they did nothing.
Spoiler, I just want to spoiler alert. Miss Bettina is in the film. She appears and she speaks highly of you, and you actually had her during the time of the weekend you were describing. She was in a different bedroom. You actually never touched her, but you told the feds that you did. Why on earth would you do that, Patrick Byrne? That could have backfired on you.
Well, there were 2 periods I saw Maria, and the first period, I've acknowledged, was very physical. The second period, I set this trap. I knew by then that I'd set up the Russian collusion hoax. They had also had me bribe Hillary Clinton, as I've discussed with you, and to use as blackmail. And there was no way out of this. They told me if I opened my mouth, they were going to kill me. I had 3 federal agents sit there and tell me that. So I laid a trap. When they came back and told me, we want you to restart a relationship with Maria Butina, I said yes. But then with Maria, when I got her out, I said, listen, we're going to do this old-fashioned courtship. You're going to stay in the guest room for the 6 months. We're going to see each other. Then if you want to get married, we'll get married. And she thought it was very romantic. I just reported this crazy stuff up my chain of command because these agents were telling me we're leaving meetings with you and reporting directly to Brennan and Comey on video conference. And this is all being done at the personal request of Barack Obama. So I reported this. I basically, I knew that I was on the path to a soft coup. We were executing a soft coup. And I cut a tree down across that path so that they would reach that tree and they either had to stop what we were doing or they were going to have to sign off on it. And that was just one step. Are you going to reveal what I did as the next step? Because Brennan and Comey accepted that. Brennan and Comey. You've
had them a letter, a presidential memorandum essentially be assigned. Now you don't have a version of that, right? Or some official document that exists somewhere. Does it still exist?
There is a presidential finding. Well, then I offered when Comey and Brennan were okay, when the agents reported that I had drugged Maria and raped her. They were okay with that, so that Brennan and Comey were okay. So then I offered to kill her. I said, I'll cut, when they asked her, can I do this without falling in love? I said, yeah, I'll cut this chick's head off, bury in the Utah desert. No one's going to know a thing. The 3 agents, who were very good men, jumped up, and literally one, I heard his weapon click. He didn't lay it on the desk, but I heard the weapon click. And they leaned over me, and they said, let's be perfectly clear. If you harm a hair on Maria's head, we're going to kill you ourselves, Byrne. You got it? And I said, yes, sir, I got it. No murdering Maria. I got it. But I knew that would be reported to Brennan and Comey, and it would put them in this spot. Either they had to stop this soft coup, or there was no way that was going to slide. Someone was going to sign off. And I found out later, and this is the big secret, the movie hints it but doesn't say it. It wasn't Brennan or Comey, it was Barack Obama. Signed a presidential finding telling 3 federal agents who had refused to continue at that point because they thought I had drugged, raped, and was about to kill her. They refused. They wanted to cancel the mission. Barack Obama gave them orders to continue, and he signed a presidential finding telling them to ignore their belief that I had committed aggravated rape and might be on the verge of killing this girl so that we could continue setting up this Russia hoax and this soft coup with the bribery, blackmail, Hillary and stuff. So I basically boxed in Brennan, Comey, and Obama, and they fell for it. And as you point out, Maria, it comes out at the end of the movie, and I walked into the DOJ 4 years ago and told them this whole story 4.5 years ago. And the lady there, the chief of staff to the National Security Division director, said, you're in a lot of trouble, Byrne, if Maria doesn't corroborate this. They went and interviewed her in the jail cell the next day. She said none of this happened. He was the most perfect gentleman. He had me sleep in the guest room. I set it up. The FBI taught me how to set up a sting. They had taught me how to set up a sting because I had to do it for Hillary. And I just applied all the legal theory and such they had taught me, and I created one on my own chain of command, and they fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And Barack Obama signed a presidential finding telling them to ignore aggravated rape and possible murder. And the funniest thing about all that is that happened October 2016, which is the very month Donald Trump got in trouble for his, you can grab him quote, that Access Hollywood tape, as if women don't occasionally, not all women are angels, I've learned, Ms. Robinson. Sometimes women even talk like that. He got in so much trouble for that. That same month, Barack Obama signed off on aggravated rape and murder so that we could continue a soft coup.
So look, Patrick Byrne, you know where the bodies are buried when it comes to the intelligence community in the FBI. There's about to be a change in power, and there could be major changes at the top. Kash Patel going in as FBI director. Could you be of help to them? And then, is there enough evidence in there to convict Comey and Brennan? Should they go to jail for some of their actions during their time in their positions?
Oh yeah, 100%. I could talk to Kash once he's in 5 minutes. I can tell him everything has been confirmed. Incidentally, I gave this when I gave this to the DOJ. 10 days later, they started the Byrne Commission. I was the predicate information to start the Byrne Commission. They've already proven all this. They just didn't act on it. But I can tell him in 10 minutes to give him 3 or 4 phone numbers. Everything I say in this movie can be confirmed in 10 minutes by somebody in that position. This has just all been covered up. I know so much more than that. I've already put it out there in different ways. So, it doesn't do them any good to kill me because it's all in ways or under dead man switches, or else I've revealed some already. So I've always tried to stay a couple steps ahead. So the calculation was never smart for them to kill me right there. But Kash Patel can confirm everything in an hour after he becomes FBI director.
It might not be smart for them, Patrick, but it doesn't mean they won't try. So please be safe and please be careful. We would like you to stay alive.
I've been living for months in Qatar, and the nice thing about Qatar is there's no assassinations. Even the head of Hamas,
surprising.
He was living here. Dubai people get assassinated, Abu Dhabi, Qatar they can't. The head of Hamas left Qatar, a couple months ago, went to Iran, went to Tehran. 12 hours later, he was dead. So they can assassinate somebody in Tehran easier than they can in Qatar.
Okay, well, still, please be very careful. I know you've also had some recent health issues. Again, we're glad that you seem to be doing better. And look, folks, it's just a very entertaining movie. I mean, very informative, but it's also just a really good watch. So look, we're in that time where we're watching a lot of stuff. We're sitting at home and Netflixing and chilling more than we typically would be. I highly recommend that you go to patrickbyrnemovie.com for just a small fee. You get to watch all 3 episodes, much cheaper than any of the other content that you pay for out there. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I have a pretty high bar, Patrick. I'm not an easy audience, and I did actually just thoroughly enjoy it. Thank you so much, and I know we're going to be talking again soon after the new year, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And again, please stay safe, my friend.
Thank you, Emerald. And yes, it does fit all the pieces together. People tell me once they see this, they understand all the pieces of the last 10 years. So thank you so much. Have a Merry Christmas again.